It's been a week in the 2019 Honda Civic Type R, and I wanted to sum up my experience with this car throughout the last 6 days and 250 miles. I've lived with this thing, I've driven it daily, I've used it as I would use it if I owned one. It's been a great car. This is one of my favorite cars on sale today. It's such a fluid and dynamic driving experience. It's so fast, it's so fun, and it's incredibly spacious, roomy, and practical inside. I do have a few complaints, a few things that bug me, but they're not deal breakers. Let's get into some things that I've noticed throughout the week. First one is, of course, no spare tire. Kind of a bummer, but you do get a flat repair kit in the back. I still say, though, if you're going to get one of these things, you're probably going to want to downgrade to smaller 18-inch wheels, especially if you're in a state with a lot of potholes like we are here in Michigan. If you're in a state where that's not a big deal, your roads are pretty good, probably don't have much to worry about. But chances are, if you hit something, you're going to destroy a tire and you're going to bend a wheel and you're going to be completely stranded. This color, I love this color. This is maybe my favorite color on the Type R now. I would always kind of stray towards black or red in these Type Rs. For some reason, I'm not a big fan of the Championship White, but the Sonic Pearl Gray looks fantastic. It really brings out the lines on the car, and I love it. I'm a big fan. The looks, I like the way this thing looks. I like how wide it is. I like how it's got all these vents and flares, and even though some of them are fake, it still adds to the experience. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm feeling some actual aerodynamics going on here with this car. This thing, Tedward describes it best. He says this thing has a special sticky substance that adheres it to the road, and I think some of that stickiness is downforce. This thing just grips and grips and grips. It has so much traction, so much just cornering force, especially at speed. It's pretty amazing. You really don't get a sensation for the G-forces this thing pulls behind the camera. The back seat. Only 2 seats back here. You've got a couple centrally located cup holders. Sitting position is fine. There's plenty of room. It's a Honda Civic after all. The front seat. This is where it gets exciting. These seats are fantastic. They're hugely comfortable. They're really well bolstered, and because of this dip right here, they're actually pretty easy to get in and out of. It's one of the more aggressively styled and purpose seats that I've found that's actually easy to live with. Yeah, let's start this thing up, and you can kind of straddle over this bolster and hop in. Like I said in my last video, my first impressions video, these 3 drive modes I think are actually tuned quite well for their intended purpose. 90% of the time I'm driving around in comfort mode, excellent ride quality, the steering's light, the engine is not super aggressive, it's just tuned just about right. Sport mode beefs things up a little bit, and race R mode, plus R, is just this thing turns into a monster. I have no complaints about the drive modes. A lot of people would want to select things individually, different pieces of the car like the steering and the engine tuning and the rev matching and things like that. But I think these drive modes are very well tuned for their intended purpose. I do wish there was a button somewhere so that I could quickly turn on and off rev matching. Instead, you have to go through all of these silly menus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have to make 6 selections to turn off rev matching, and you only can do that at a complete stop. And that whole time, your traffic light would have turned green and people would be honking at you. Oh, and you have to have the parking brake on. That's annoying. Otherwise, though, this infotainment seems to work pretty well. I wish it were the updated one that was in the Honda Accord. I'm sure Honda will implement that soon. However, we'll see what happens. Is there an easy way to get to Apple CarPlay? Yes, there is. Great. Apple CarPlay works awesome. I've just been running Waze all the time. We have this digital gauge display. We've got lots of cool information. Your boost pressure, your throttle input. You've got a rev meter. Tells you when to shift gears, G meters, timers, all sorts of cool stuff in there. We'll leave it on the boost pressure so you guys can kind of see how much throttle is being put in. Decent reverse camera. Yeah. All right, let's go out for a drive here and sum up my week in this thing. So I could see myself owning, living with, buying one of these cars. It's one of the few press cars that I've driven this year that I actually have fallen for and really, really have enjoyed driving. I would say this car and the Dodge Challenger Scat Pack wide body are at the top of my list for fun and daily drivability and just all around fantastic performance cars. The Veloster N is a close third. And I know all of you have been wanting a Veloster N Civic Type R comparison. I'm not going to dwell on that too much, but here's basically how it sums up in my mind. The Veloster N looks like the more mature, buttoned-down proposition. It's not. It's the hooligan. It has exhaust pops. It's louder. It makes all these crazy noises. It's maybe 90% of the aggressiveness, the performance of this Type R, but in just a little bit more of a silly, younger, hooligan fashion. This Type R, though, it feels so buttoned down, so mature from the driver's seat. The driving experience in this thing is absolutely unmatched in terms of front-wheel drive prowess. This thing has so much traction, so much grip, so much capability around the corners. We're in comfort mode and just rocketing right now. For some reason, it won't let you change drive modes on the fly when you're under hard cornering. Don't really know why that is, but for now we'll just leave it in sport. So, despite the Civic Type R's looks, it has a really mature driving experience. This feels just like such a well-dialed in front-wheel drive chassis. This is the best front-wheel drive car I've ever driven from a performance standpoint. It's amazing, and the Veloster N is a close second. The power in this Type R really kind of separates it from the N, in my opinion. The way this thing pulls at high revs under full boost is just phenomenal. It's amazing. The differential tuning they feel pretty similar. I think, this car has maybe a little bit more yaw control, so it's braking the rear wheels to kind of get the car turned in and rotated. And this feels a little bit more neutral, especially on lift-off oversteer situations. But watch how this thing just rockets out of corners, full throttle, front-wheel drive. It's so good. Of course, the Veloster N is also smaller, and this is a little bit of a bigger, more practical, more usable car. 4 full doors. Veloster N's a little bit cramped in the back. So, it depends on what you need. Do you want something that looks a little bit more understated but drives like a little bit more of a madman? I think the Veloster N is the perfect car for your mid-20s, and this, despite its looks, is the perfect car for maybe you've got a family, maybe you want something that's a little bit more usable. I don't know. They're both fantastic vehicles. There's quite a bit of a price difference going on too. Personally, I'm in Type R camp. I just love the way this thing rides. It's so soft. It's so livable on a daily basis, especially in comfort mode. And yes, it's a big vehicle. compared to a lot of other hot hatches on the market. Size-wise, this thing is super long, super wide. I mean, it's as big as an STI, but actually wider, bigger. I love the little blow-off noise you get when letting off the throttle. Turning radius was better than the Veloster N2. That was a little bit of an annoyance after a little while. This thing just rockets. Second gear tops out right at 60 miles an hour. The pedals aren't positioned super ideally for heel and toe. You can do it, but I wish the gas pedal and the brake pedal were a little bit closer spaced. So what I mean about that rotation, you can just let off, the front end will just dart right in. It's awesome. So one other complaint with the Type R here, this cruise control sucks. It's not good. Basically, you know, usually when you have a cruise control system, it's up 1 press per mile per hour. In this, that's not the case. You have to hold it until you reach your desired mile per hour, and then there's not really an indicator telling you how fast you've set it until you reach that speed. So it's kind of old school, kind of rudimentary. It works, but it's not something that's easily adjustable on the fly. I will say your cruise control main on-off button will stay engaged or disengaged after you turn on and off the car. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to always be engaging that. You can just quickly do your set, reset, resume button. But something just to note. One more corner, one more plus R mode. This car has such high capabilities that under braking, under hard cornering, you get a little dizzy. It's awesome. Disrupts the fluid in your inner ear. And really, I think the most impressive thing about this Type R is just its range of capability. The performance breadth and the amount of comfort that this car can provide, given its performance capabilities, I think might be unmatched in the market. It's pretty incredible how livable this thing is and how fast it is and how brutal and raw and engaging it is. This shifter is Honda's shifter from the gods. It's amazing. It's so tight. It's so crisp. It's notchy. A lot of people have kind of complained that they've had gear grinds and transmission issues. I haven't had a single grind all week. Nothing's happened. I've skipped gears. I've rev matched. I haven't rev matched. No issues. It's been fine. Highly recommend this for someone who's looking for just one car to do it all. Throw some smaller wheels on here. You've got a really, really awesome package. And I'm curious to see what Honda does with any updates going forward on this platform. I know they're not going to be making them in the UK for much longer. We'll see what happens. So, exciting stuff to have a car like this from Honda back in the marketplace. They absolutely nailed it with this Type R. They are straight on the money. All these little complaints that I've had with this car, they're not deal breakers. You know, it's not something that you can't live with. You can deal with all these issues, and it's fine. Honestly, I would probably just leave rev matching on most of the time, even though I do miss my own crispy heel and toe downshifts. So, anyway, guys, that's it for this week on the Type R. Let me know if you have any further questions. I tried to do a little bit of a Type R Veloster comparison, but for really the real comparison, go to the Veloster N videos, see these videos, look at your checkbook, see what you've got, And if you can, get a chance to drive both, because they are quite different vehicles from behind the wheel. I'm in Type R camp for sure. Mostly because of size and ride quality. And the Veloster N doesn't ride terribly, but this is just so easy and so unnoticeable in the background as far as ride quality goes on these Michigan roads that we have, that it just inches it ahead. And the performance is just insane. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in this week. Celebrating 100,000 subscribers this week on the TheTopher's YouTube channel. That's pretty exciting. Thanks again for everyone who's watched and subscribed and followed me throughout the process. I really enjoy making these videos. It's a lot of fun. This is kind of my dream job from when I was a kid, doing this type of stuff, testing cars, doing tracks, videos and things with race cars and street cars. Yeah, it's been a pretty fun gig and just a really enjoyable way for me to experience a lot of vehicles without being a writer or a journalist, I guess. So thanks again. I really appreciate everyone's support and ongoing interest. We'll see you guys in the next video next week. We have a Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, which I'm also considering as maybe our next vehicle for my fiance. So a little bit of a departure from performance vehicles that we've had these past few weeks, but it should be a great vehicle nonetheless. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you later.